Once again, let's grab our fabric scraps because today, my dear sewing friends, we are going to create fun and whimsical fabric flowers. For this little project, you can use a variety of different fabrics, but each one of them is going to give you a slightly different result. So let me give you a little tour. This little flower is made from rayon nylon blend. This one is made from silk organza. Here we have one made from linen on your left and one made from cotton on your right. So once you have decided which fabric you want to use for this little project, go ahead and grab it and let's get to it. For this flower, I chose a scrap of this blue silk. To begin with, I'm going to start with cutting strips. The first one is going to be about 20 inches by 2.5 inches. The next one is going to be a little bit smaller, approximately, I would say 12 inches by 1.5 inches. And the next one is going to be the smallest, approximately 5 inches by 1 inch. For the bottom layer, I'm going to use the biggest strip, and here I have two choices. I can either cut individual petals like this, or I can take this and fold it, I would say approximately 1.5 inches in width. So I'm going to continue folding it, creating all of the layers that we're going to be cutting through. Once you have all of the layers in your hands, make sure that you pinch them real good. Grab your scissors. On the bottom, we're going to make a horizontal cut like so. Then we're going to do an oval. Bring the oval all the way down and make another horizontal cut. Once we open it, this is what we're going to have. And I'm not sure what happened here, but we can cut this little petal off. Now let's grab hand sewing needle and thread. I'm using white so you can see a little bit better. We are going to do basting or gathering stitch right here on the bottom. Once done, let's go ahead and gather it. And this is what we're going to have. Now we're going to bring the two ends together to form a circle. So take your needle, put it through the other end, and pull on a thread. And this is our base layer. At this point, I usually go ahead and tie the knot on the back of the flower, and we can move to step number 2. With a second strip, I usually prefer cutting individual petals. You can either, again, fold it like so, or you can cut them one by one. Once again, I'm grabbing my hand sewing needle and I'm doing the basting or running stitch through each of the petals. Once done, we're going to gather it just like we did for the base layer. And this is what we're going to have. To form the circle, bring it over to the other end. Do a couple of stitches to secure it. Now, while you still have your needle and thread attached to your second layer, take the bottom layer, place the second layer on top, and let's go ahead and secure it with a couple of stitches through both of the layers. And this is what we're going to have. For the last and final layer, we're going to do all the same steps as we just completed for the second layer, and I usually cut 5 or 7 little petals. For these little petals, keep the bottom edges somewhat narrow so that way when we gather them, the middle isn't as bulky as on the first and second layer. Once gathered, let's go ahead and attach it right here in the middle. This is a great time to attach something in the middle of the flower if you'd like to, like for example, little beads. To finish it up, on the bottom, I like to use a little piece of ribbon and cover this up with little stitches. In your case, you can also use a dab of hot glue and attach it that way. After this, you can turn these flowers in whatever you would like. For example, about 10 years ago, I made a bunch of these white flowers to be hair accessories on our wedding day. And then, of course, you can turn these flowers into beautiful little clips and customize your clothing. And then you can also do something really fun, like this Barbie dress. Since I was working with natural fibers and the edges are unfinished, eventually they will start fraying. So I see two options in this case. Number one, we can simply embrace it and leave it as is. Like for example, in this linen flower, I think the fraying does add a little bit to the look. Number two, to prevent that, we can use a little bit of fray check or fabric glue on the very edges of the petal. You can see how it looks in this rayon nylon flower. It is nearly invisible, but it makes the edges of the flowers a little bit harder and resistant to fraying. Certain other fabrics like polyesters do melt and curl when you hold them close enough to the candle. That's another way how to get a really nice clean edge, but definitely be cautious and be very careful when you do that. Now there's about a million different ways how you can make a beautiful fabric flower. I personally really love tinkering around with different shapes, different arrangements, different sizes of petals and flowers themselves. So in this case, truly, sky is the limit.